Morning Year 3. So for today's maths we are still using some word problems, lots and lots of practice because they can be a little bit more tricky, trying to work out if we're adding or subtracting. So let's start with question number 1. In a class there are 13 boys and 19 girls. How many more girls than boys are there? So we know there's two parts of the class, boys and girls, and we want to find the whole number. So that's a part model that we need to draw. So 2 bars, and we're going to find the total. Now I'm using a ruler again. If you don't have a ruler, don't worry, you can just draw squares. Sometimes some people ask if they actually have to draw the bar model. You don't have to, but I think it's good practice because whenever you get into year 4 and 5 and 6, the questions obviously become a lot more complicated and there's a lot more steps. So it's just a good habit to get into because they can become really, really helpful later in primary school. Okay, so we know there are 13 boys and there are 19 girls, and we're going to find the total, which is going to be this part and this part added together. So 13 and 19, 3 add 9 makes 12. Need to regroup the 1. 1 adds 1 adds 1 makes 30. So there are 32 children in the whole class. How could you check that to make sure it's right? So you could take 32 and take away 19, and if you get 13 then it's right, or 32 take away 13 and if you get 19 it's right. So we're just doing inverse operations, so we're doing the opposite. So instead of adding we would be taking away, and you can check it that way. Question number 2. Emma has 98 seashells. Charles has 23 more seashells than Emma. How many seashells does Charles have? So if you remember in the last video, I mentioned sometimes it's helpful to read the question without the numbers, just to try and figure out if we're going to be adding or subtracting. So Emma has seashells, Charles has more seashells than Emma. So we already know that Charles is going to have more, so he's going to have a bigger bar. So let's draw Charles. I'm just going to put a C at the side for Charles and draw his bar. And Emma, if Charles has more, Emma has less, so her bar is going to be smaller. Now we know if we've got the whole and one part, it's going to be a subtracting. Okay, now we can start, we've got our bars, we can start to fill in the information that we need. So Emma has 98 seashells, so this is Emma's bar, and she has 98. Charles has 23 more, so we actually know, we know these two parts, so it's actually going to be an adding, has 23 more, so we know this part is 23. I haven't drawn it solid because it's not actually how many Emma has, it's how many more Charles has. So to find out Charles's whole bar, we need to add these two parts. So 98 add 23. So 8 add 3, we're starting from the ones, 8 add 3 makes 11. So we've got 1, 1, and we're going to regroup 10 ones into 1 10. 9 add 1 makes 10, add 2 makes 12. So put the 2 down. We don't have any more numbers to regroup onto, so we can just put that 1 there and it becomes a 100. So our answer is 121. Charles has 121 seashells. Now question number 3, let's read it carefully. Elliot collects 48 pressed flowers. He collects 16 fewer pressed flowers than Hannah. How many pressed flowers does Hannah collect? So I'm going to read it again without numbers. Elliot collects flowers. He collects fewer pressed flowers than Hannah. So he has less than Hannah. His bar is going to be smaller. So I'm going to do an E for Elliot and an H for Hannah. And we're going to draw the bar. So Elliot's bar is going to be smaller than Hannah's bar. So that was not very straight. Okay, so Elliot has a smaller bar than Hannah. How many pressed flowers does Hannah collect? So Elliot has 48, we know that. So we can put that into there. And he has 16 fewer. So that means that this part, because this is how much more Hannah has, we know this part is 16. So we can do a little dashed box like that and put 16 in here. So this is similar to this question where we've got a part and we're trying to find the whole. So we need to be adding for this question. So 48 add 16. So we're going to start with the ones. 8 add 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So we're going to keep the 4 in the ones column and regroup 10 ones into 110 because we can't just squish that in there. 4 add 1 is 5, add another 1 is 6. So Hannah has 64 pressed flowers. Easy. How can we check that though? We could check it by 64 take away 16 and see if we get 48. Or you could do 64 take away 48 and see if you get 16. So it's the inverse, you're doing the opposite of what you've just done to check your answer. Now finally, question number 4. There are 71 women at a concert. There are 29 more women than men at the concert. How many men are there at the concert? So let's read it one more time without the numbers. You don't have to do this if you already know straight away if you're going to be adding or subtracting, but I just find it a little bit easier. So there are women at a concert. There are more women than men at the concert. So we know there's more women. We'll do a W for women and an M for men. If there's more women, the women are going to have a bigger bar. I'll do the men with a smaller bar in our bar model. So now we can read through it again and fill in what we know, what parts of the bar model we know. So there are 71 women at the concert, so we know the women's bar, this bar is going to be 71. There are 29 more women than men. So it's not going to be this much because this bar shows how many men there are. It's going to be this little area here that shows how many more. So how much bigger is this bar? And it was 29. How many men are there at the concert? So this is different than the other questions because we have the whole and one part. So we need to take away this extra part to find out how many men there are. So 71 take away 29. 1 take away 9. We can't do it, so we're going to have to regroup. So we're going to regroup from the tens. So our 7 tens are going to become 6 tens. And our 1 is going to become 11 ones because we took one group of 10 and turned it into 10 groups of 1 plus the one we already had. So 11 take away 9 is 2. And then onto the tens, 6 take away 2 is 4. So you'll find the actual calculations in some of these questions are really easy. So like all of the questions today have been adding or subtracting 2-digit numbers. We haven't even looked at any 3-digit numbers. So the real concentration, the real focus in these lessons is going to be trying to find out if it's adding or subtracting and make sure you're adding and subtracting the right numbers. So now we've got 42. We know there were 42 men at the concert. Again, how would you check? So because we were doing a subtracting, we could check by adding this number and see if we get 71. Alright, just choose some of your questions. You don't have to check every one of them if you're really confident in your answers. Just choose some to practice checking your answers. It's always good to have practice of adding and subtracting anyway. Make sure you check your answers at the very end as well. If you haven't got them right, try it one more time, and if you still haven't got it right, read through the answer that's like the red part of the question and see how they've done it and see where you've went wrong. It could have been that you haven't done your bar model properly, or you could have made a little mistake with your actual column method, adding or subtracting. Okay, and I'll see you tomorrow for another maths lesson.